May it please the court. My name is Michael Fan, and along with my partners Derek Heinlein and Jay Newson, we are here today representing the people prosecuting Harry Truman in this case. Your Honors, it is clear that Harry Truman is guilty of crimes against humanity for his dropping of the atomic bombs and for his firebombings of Japan. To my first point, the airstrikes of Tokyo were a crime against humanity. They clearly targeted civilians in places of...
I have a question. So the firebombings of Tokyo, are you saying that Truman committed these firebombings of Tokyo?
Not necessarily. It was, well, I'll get more into that later, but it's like, he wasn't like the one in the plane dropping the bombs, but he still definitely had some power over the influence of it, and it was actually a relatively secret one, so he had to have some sort of power. I'll get more into how he dropped it later.
From my information, Truman was not president at this time. FDR was still president during this time.
Truman was vice president at the time, and at the time FDR was pretty sick, and you know, if the president's pretty sick and his top advisors there, the top advisor definitely had to hear about it as well, some sort of time, and he definitely had some part in doing it. To my first point, the airstrikes of Tokyo were a crime against humanity. They clearly targeted civilians and places of business, both heavily protected by the Rome Statute and general ethics. Furthermore, they wantonly and knowingly used firebombs they had, with full knowledge that doing so would cause fires to ravage the cities, leaving tens of thousands to die a horrible death. In specific, Operation Meeting House, the deadliest and most well-known bomb raid on Japan, is said to have killed approximately 100,000 people, injured 50,000, and left almost 1 million civilians homeless. Throughout these destructive firebombings, the President FDR was getting increasingly ill, giving Harry Truman, the main advisor and vice president, more and more power when it came to the military. And after the death of FDR, which occurred 1 month after Meeting House, Truman was sworn in and continued the raid and intensified them. And yet, these are not the most heinous crimes in which Truman has committed in World War II, which leads me to my second point.
After the successive Battle of Okinawa, the United States had occupied islands mere hundreds of miles away from Japanese shores. Allied forces created a perfectly good invasion plan of Japan, titled Operation Downfall, which included the backing of the now healed European allies. The operation was separated into two separate operations, which were planning to attack from two different places in Japan. Truman, however, did not like them. And began to say that the estimated deaths for the Allied forces were 200,000, with 1.1 million casualties. However, historians and experts now agree this count is vastly overestimated, and that the actual count of casualties would be far lower, as the Allied forces had a huge advantage.
You said that Truman thought that this would be very bad, but it wasn't just Truman from my information. It was his advisors that also said that it would result in a lot of casualties, so it wasn't just Truman, correct?
Truman was this, well, first of all, the atomic bombs were extremely secretive. It was kept such a secret that the reason why it was called the Manhattan Project was to confuse any spies, because that was everything that was developed in Manhattan was really developed in Chicago. It was only known to around 12 people, and Truman only knew it once he was sworn in. So although, yes, maybe his Douglas MacArthur might have known about it, others, he would still have to be one of the top people, and because he is president, he is commander-in-chief, which means that in case of these such destructive weapons like this, he definitely had to fight it safe.
Japanese leaders also knew that it was the beginning of the end at the Battle of Okinawa, bringing up the possibility of a surrender to avoid all-out destruction. Even knowing the advantage they had on Japan, on August 6, 1945, Harry Truman instead authorized the use of the most destructive weapon to ever be used in the atomic bomb.
When you say that or here, when you say that Truman authorized the bomb, is there not anyone else that it had to go through before the bomb was actually, like, was able to be put into place, or was he just the only person that had it?
Yes, it most likely had to go through several government officials, including Senate, House, and Minority.
The entire project was, again, it was extremely secretive. Only 12 people knew about it. Obviously, it would have been debated beforehand with his top advisors, such as people like Douglas MacArthur. But again, like I said, he was commander-in-chief and critical scope of it.
So the atomic bombs were planned by FDR. They were first discussed by FDR. So how was Truman guilty for carrying out someone else's plan?
FDR did not plan on it. FDR created the atomic bombs in case the Germans created the atomic bomb before them. And again, FDR never made a plan of atomic bombing of Japan. He simply developed them under his watch. Truman was the one who decided to take the action instead of doing, again, the aforementioned title Operation Downfall. Instead of doing that, he decided to just drop the atomic bombs. And it was FDR, although FDR made it, he never really had any real intentions or any clear intentions of using them.
Did you know this from a quote by FDR or a quote from Truman or anything?
There was never any real documents. Like after war, after a couple decades, usually the CIA will declassify documents, right? That's all we know about the Manhattan Project. But in this case, no documents were declassified. And it's pretty clear that he never had any visions.
So you know that one of the original plans for the city that would be bombed were Hiroshima and Kyoto, which meant there would have been more deaths. So only took the saying of one of the military officers and not be Kyoto afterwards. Instead, because he had a very good timing there. So that means Truman would have planned more deaths, which was put someone else with the intention.
Is that a question or a statement?
The question, what I'm trying to say is that here in the statement, so Truman was planning that there will be more deaths than harm. More deaths than life saved. Right?
Are you correcting me or are you asking a question because I don't know how exactly to respond to that?
I just don't need a statement because I'm trying to say is that Truman had planned for there to be more deaths than it actually happened.
Yes, Kyoto, I think the main reason why it was used was also he did place in Shintoism, which is the big religion. Any more questions?
Are you guys done? So,
We're not.
well, I do, oh, no, I'll just wait.
I've already been informed of how deadly it was. He chose to drop it first on Hiroshima, a place where over 2,500 250,000 inhabitants, no civilians. There, it killed approximately a quarter of the civilians, and left over 25% to suffer from severe exposure to radiation. Not of shooting debris.
Well, attacking civilians was a widespread part of World War II, and in World War II, approximately 40% of 50 million people killed were civilians. So does that make the bombings really any different than the rest of the war?
I mean, it was still a crime against humanity and a war crime according to the Rome Statute. And even though it was already happening in the war, it's still it's not very moral to just drop a bomb on right on civilians. Not even many soldiers died.
And also the U.S. was a big portion of contributed to a lot of the civilian deaths and a lot of the deaths like the deaths at Stalingrad. Those were people who got caught in the crossfire. This time it wasn't intentional bombing. It's the crime is actually listed here, Article 7. There.
This left the Japanese government in a state of confusion, causing them to take 3 days to deliberate on the matter. In this time, Truman grew impatient and proceeded to drop another bomb on the city of Nagasaki, killing almost 40,000 and injuring 25,000. Preceding this, the Japanese government surrendered. Peter Kuznick, a nuclear scientist, stated that the atomic bomb was not just a war crime, but a crime against humanity. I ask you, Your Honors, if the Imperial Japanese had stalled on their surrender, how many more cities would have Truman destroyed before he would have simply gone with the already created Operation Downfall?
So would you say that it was only Truman's idea to drop another bomb when they were still lingering in the decision?
No, he was one of the main influencers, like one of the main people discussing like if they should do it or not.
So he gave his permission to drop the bomb, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's like the same thing with Bruce Glenn. It definitely wasn't his lone decision, but he definitely had the major say in it, and again, he is president, he's commander-in-chief, he's basically the top of the military, and they needed Congress to overturn it. In this case, Congress didn't even know about it in order to overturn it, so he has to have supported it.
According to the Rome Statute, and due to these two cases, we, the prosecution, charge Harry Truman with the following crimes. Article 6, items A, B, and C, meaning 3 counts of genocidal crime. Article 7, items A and B, relating to murder and extermination. Article 8, Section 2, Part B, items 1, 2, and 4, meaning the crimes of intentionally directing attacks against civilians and civilian targets, and launching an attack knowing that it will cause long-term and severe damage to the natural environment, which would be clearly excessive in relation to the concrete and direct overall military advantage. For these reasons, Harry Truman should be found guilty of crimes against humanity for his firebombings and atomic bomb attacks. Thank you.
Is there any questions?
So I know this point has been brought up a lot, but they weren't only like it wasn't only his like idea to bomb the places. So I don't think that it should all be blamed on just him.
Well, the way I see it, he was one of the people who said he had to.
That is time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take a minute, talk with your table partner. What you learned from that oral argument. Ready? Yes. Good. So I'm going to add an assignment for the people that are not justices and that are not attorneys. So I want to make sure that you guys are engaged and being honest. A lot of people just aren't following along like I expected them to. So what I need is I want you guys to jot down summaries of what they're saying, jot down questions that maybe you would ask or that you have, and then I will collect that at the end, okay? So I apologize, in the future, I probably need to have an assignment for the people that are not presenting, because I don't know if everybody can see you guys, right? So just making sure that's what, yes?
Would the assignment be assigned to,
So long as you are participating in the trial and you are asking questions, I will not require you to have that assignment, okay? So at this time, question?
Do we do it for the one that just presented or just this next one?
Just this next one, let's just do it for just this next one, okay? Chief Justice?
The defense may now present their whole.
May it please the court. My name is Zachary Eversole, and along with my partners, Sacco Crosby and Josh Bratton. And we are here today representing Harry S. Truman, the defendant in this case. Your Honors, Harry Truman is not guilty of crimes against humanity for 3 reasons. First, the atomic bomb saved more lives than it killed. Second, Japan wouldn't have surrendered if it weren't for the atomic bombs. And third, Harry Truman dropped the atomic bombs in defense of what Japan did in the bombing of Pearl Harbor. It was for protection, not defense.
To our first point, the atomic bomb saved more people than it killed. Although many people say it was too harsh that 120,000 Japanese casualties wasn't necessary, it could have been a lot worse. Because of the bombs, Japan surrendered, and without it, the war would have continued for many months or even years. America.
Isn't there other factors that could have led to Japanese surrender?
Although, like many people say that, because if Russia would have gone and attacked them, I think it's mainly because of the atomic bombs. Because Japan surrendered a couple of days after that, 2 days after that, which means that the atomic bombs were going to be gone.
The main reason they surrendered was also because the USA dropped another bomb while they were still rendering their decision, forcing them to surrender. Otherwise, they could lose more lives, which they already lost more lives than America didn't count. So I don't see how that's saving more people.
Studies showed that up to 6 million more people, 6 to 8 more million people could have died combined with Japanese civilians and U.S. soldiers and Japanese soldiers.
So you said that Truman could have either dropped the atomic bombs and kill 120,000 Japanese people, or invade Japan and lose at least 1 million American and Allied troops. So are you saying that the attack on Pearl Harbor, which killed 2,403 people, deserved a response of the atomic bombings, which killed 105,000 people?
It was unnecessary. It was a retaliation.
And we haven't even mentioned about the bombing of Tokyo. So, since Pearl Harbor was a military base, the attack on Pearl Harbor mostly killed soldiers. But most of the attacks that the U.S. Orchestrated on Japan killed civilians.
I mean, but the atomic bombs, we just dropped it to the civilians died, but it was mainly to make them surrender. So I don't know if it was supposed to kill the innocent.
And the bombing of Pearl Harbor was unnecessary. There was nothing that would lead to Japan doing that. They just wanted more room.
Yes, but like I said, at Pearl Harbor, there was only 2,000, okay, I can't say only, but there were 2,403 people who died. But then in the atomic bombings, there were 105,000 civilians who died, plus, of course, some military people, but it was mainly civilians. So they killed some people in the military bases here, and it did not deserve a response of 105,000 people died there.
Yeah, but like we were saying, it saved a lot of people. Without us dropping the atomic bombs, Japan would not have surrendered. They could have gone down to Australia and Indonesia and attacked a lot more people.
I just want a clarification. So all you're saying right now, it could have done this. This is all speculation, right? Because we don't really know exactly how many people it would have.
Yes, we don't know exactly, but we have several military and official sites. Several military and official sites that would state that it would have happened.
And you know that America, they had very little choices, because if they just left Japan alone, they would most likely be invaded by the Soviet Union, which was already in Manchuria, and would implement a communist government in Japan, which would cause a lot of conflict, which would cause a lot of turmoil, because they would lose their divine leader, and B, America would not want more communism to spread. So they had the only choice to either invade Japan and or to drop the nuclear bombs.
Is that a question or a statement?
You say, I'm trying to tell you that America had basically no choice but to deploy the bombs.
Statement. That's why we bought.
Every time I ask a question, bro,
You presented beforehand the fact that Japan bombed America and Pearl Harbor was totally unnecessary, and they just did it to get more land. But they actually did it because they wanted to keep America out of the war, because it would definitely sway against them if America got involved in the war and tried to take on Japan and the rest of the Axis powers.
But do you really think, if you're gonna attack someone's military base, do you think that will make them stay out of the war, or do you think that will make them want to retire?
I mean, I see your point, but also I'm not Japan. I wasn't the one who bombed Pearl Harbor, so I wouldn't necessarily know that, and that's all speculation. but they could have had different ideas in mind, and they could have been trying to intimidate America into staying out of the war, because they're like, oh, look at the weaponry we have.
They knew that like we had large armies. They didn't know about the bombs because the main part of this very secret project. But they knew that we were a very secret force.
But there were other options, right, in doing the atomic bomb. Yes, so we did the atomic bomb, but there were other options, right?
A land invasion, but the way it's Yeah, we didn't want to risk our own civilians. Not civilians. We didn't want to risk our military's life if we tried to invade Japan, because that would cost more American casualties.
But if you did invade Japan, it would only take down the army, not the innocent civilians that don't play much of a part.
Are you saying that the innocent civilian lives matter more than the military?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, why would you have to take lives of people who have no place in the war? Okay, I think you should let them continue speaking. And go on. Go and then we do that.
So I have a question about something that you said earlier.
Zariah, pardon the interruption. Zariah Boyd to the office.
Okay, so it was that you said Japan wouldn't have surrendered without the atomic bomb, even though earlier, before the atomic bombs had been dropped, the Axis power had already gotten weakened with Germany surrendering. So it wasn't looking good for Japan in the war already. So how do you know that they wouldn't have surrendered?
That's against speculation, like you were calling out this. Like it's all a chance. And they weren't the treaty between them, I mean there's like what 4,000 miles between them. How much could Germany attack at that distance? This leads me to our second point. Japan would have surrendered if the atomic bomb. Because of destruction in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan was in shock. They needed time to rebuild and couldn't continue fighting the war. If Japan had not surrendered, they would have kept fighting and millions more could have died in the brutal warfare of World War II. For example, Japan could have moved down to Australia and Indonesia and invaded them both. This shows that lives were saved as an first point. Also, during the invasion of Okinawa, the Japanese used innocent children and told them to fight off U.S. soldiers, telling them to take out as many U.S. soldiers as they could and kill themselves. This shows that Japan wasn't afraid to use innocent lives to fight a war that they didn't have anything to do with.
Well, I just want to clarify again. So we didn't know for sure that dropping the atomic bombs would cause them to surrender yet. Yeah, like we didn't know 100% sure that dropping the atomic bombs would cause Japan to surrender.
I get what you're saying, we didn't really know, but we kind of knew if we're gonna drop an atomic bomb on the city, they're not gonna have time to build another army do one.
The first time the atomic bomb was ever used, the U.S. probably had no idea what they were doing.
They had several high-ranking military officers and tons and tons of people.
Well, we didn't know that they would surrender necessarily, like we said, but we were pretty sure. So what we didn't know is that we knew that the atomic bombs hurt people and killed people and things like that. So you're saying that Truman blindly dropped the bombs, not knowing really what would happen, but just knowing that dropping the atomic bombs would kill a lot of people?
So, this kind of brings us to our first point again, because like you're saying, didn't know how many people it would kill, they knew that it would save them.
The Japanese actions on the day of the invasion of Okinawa led to 150,000 dead Americans.
Now on to our third. Harry Truman dropped the atomic bombs in defense of the Japanese Air Force attack of Pearl Harbor. Imagine you are in the military, working at a military base in Hawaii, when you see planes coming out of nowhere. The next second, bombs are dropping. Battleships are sinking. After the attack, are you just going to let them get away with this? No. We just saw what they can do, did, and what they would do. We must protect ourselves and others. If they can do this, they're probably going to do another thing. Japan didn't have an ethical reason to bomb Pearl Harbor.
So you're connecting the atomic bombs all the way back to Pearl Harbor, they're very, it's the beginning and the end is the Pacific Theater. And by the end, American forces had already reclaimed most of the islands that Imperial Japan had taken over.
It was only 4 to 6 years, and it wasn't just 4 years, and it wasn't just about getting the island back. It was making sure that this wouldn't happen again. Because who's to say they can't on the White House next, the Capitol, the Pentagon, like all these other important spots. Like just starting with one small thing at Pearl Harbor.
So wanting them not to bomb your our important places like the Washington D.C. those places makes it right to bomb places that's important to them.
Can you repeat that question?
So you not wanting them to bomb the White House and other important places to the U.S. makes it all right for you to bomb important places in Japan, causing like economic failure, which is what you didn't want to happen to the U.S. or like the U.S. didn't.
Well, I mean, Pearl Harbor was already an important place to us. They attacked it. So,
They just wanted to continue the imperial expansion, even though they had a private empire of tens of thousands of square miles and established the government, which not everyone had at the time had. Then, after the brutal uncalled for bombing, did they expect the America not to retaliate? After thousands of U.S. soldiers died and advanced U.S. military base went to pieces.
That is time. Thank you very much. All rise. Justice Simpson, if you guys will step out now, please. All right, you guys may be seated. All right, guys, let's tell each other good job. Okay, I meant like go. How was it? I like having questions. So. So I'm curious, what did you guys think? Class.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you guys think? So what were some questions that maybe you guys came up with, or some thoughts that you guys had about the trial? Yeah, when you get to start here.
Well, I kind of had a lot of questions that were like, what were they saying? Like a couple of clarifying questions. Like, were they saying that the atomic bombs were actually necessary, or like, were they saying that? Sorry. Were they saying that like the Japanese lives mattered more than American lives? Because to me, that's kind of what their different arguments sound a little bit like. They're like, if we had invaded, they would have killed more of our soldiers and less of Americans. Yeah.
What I was hearing a lot is that kind of which is more important, soldiers or civilians? Like, which one is more important
So the way I see it, it's like they're all equal, right? But it's like it depends on who you want to kill, because if you start killing a lot of soldiers and you're also a soldier, that's war. That's just war, right? But if you start killing a lot of civilians and you're a soldier, it's war. That's not war. That's just a massacre at that point. So what?
Okinawa, the blood and iron corpse.
It is literally a war crime.
Okay, there were, something that I found interesting was, and this is like, not against the defense, but it's like a critique in the argument. There were around 50,000 U.S. lives that were lost in Hiroshima alone, like a mix of civilians and soldiers that were in Hiroshima at the time of the bombing, and 50,000 of them died. But in your argument, you said something along the lines of
not wanting to get U.S. troops involved, or not wanting more civilians killed, even though you killed both civilians, both sides of civilians. There are around 12,000 U.S. civilians in Hiroshima. 49,000 U.S. people total, 37,000 of them being U.S. troops, 12,000 being U.S. citizens.
Wait, so what's your point then?
Well, just that it was just it's not really a point. It's just like a critique and argument, really.
Yes, I do.
I do.
I would like to read that document. I would like to read that document.
No, I was like, you guys just like, evidence here.
Yes, yes.
Really?
Go, say
So like, I'm not saying that an atomic bomb is necessary, but the first one kind of sort of could have made sense, but the second one, like, I don't understand why you dropped it.
Yeah. Why did he?
Because
Why did he drop
you
it?
can't prepare it.
Why do you? Yeah, I would have. No, I would have bombed. I wouldn't have stopped it once they
I
surrendered.
will finish talking.
Not colored.
I just don't know why they would have dropped the second one. Yeah, that's.
I am
Zachary.
Yes, okay, thank you. Michael, we're talking to you.
Oh, he's calling out. So about the Okinawa, y'all were saying like it wasn't necessary to like kill all the civilians there. But like the Japanese army, they like forced the civilians to fight. They just wanted to run. They wouldn't let them evacuate. Yeah. Will again.
Well, I think that like, yeah, so like, they used civilians to fight. I didn't really know this before I just heard it, but like, I guess if they used civilians to fight, so they kind of already used civilians. And
They used more than the bomb.
And also kamikaze, like, they told if the Japanese soldiers would run out of ammo in their planes, they would just like fly into the ground. Because like, they just wanted them to die and take out U.S. soldiers with them.
So like, this is kind of not really a clarification or like an argument of either of the cases, but like, how, like, I'm just wondering like how could like they have surrendered, like how could they have retaliated against Pearl Harbor in any other way if there was another way? Like, I guess that is the point of Michael could do.
Also, the thing about Pearl Harbor was that the way I see it, it was like Pearl Harbor occurred like it occurred a while after. Like island hopping took a lot of time, and they had to capture a lot of islands like Guadalcanal, Midway, and Okinawa, right? And also,
Yeah, so like what we're saying, they use like every able-bodied person to like fight, and sometimes they just gave them a grenade. Japanese, right? Yeah. Sometimes they just gave them a grenade and told them to light it and just run with it into the U.S. Camps and stuff, and so some of the civilians that were probably killed in the bombing actually were Kennedy soldiers, but it's still, there was a lot of unnecessary deaths there.
Okay, Winnie.
Oh, thank you. I really agree with that point. So, what? So I know they're running a lot about like, about how like, dropping the atomic bombs like killed. I don't even know what they said, but it was like invading wouldn't have been as effective as like dropping the atomic bombs or something. Like we don't know that for sure. I don't know what they were saying, to be honest. I'm just having a little trouble understanding, and I couldn't ask clarifying questions. So that was just my take on it.
that's not, it's not correct. I just have a question for the defense. Sorry, I'm kind of like getting off the defense. But I remember in your oral argument, you said that the attack on Pearl Harbor was an actual unethical.
I don't think so.
We did not say that.
We did not at all say that.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point.
You said it has an ethical.
Something about ethics. But if that's not ethical, then what makes bombing in two different countries ethical? Two different cities ethical and killing over 200,000.
Come here, come look at the script.
Yeah.
Come look at the
script, Connor.
I heard something about ethics.
Yeah, Connor.
Literally said Japan didn't have an ethical reason.
Right there.
You had ethical in it.
No, we didn't.
Yes, I did. I was
listening.
Class.
Yes, yes.
Me. Okay, well, you get to talk.
Oh wait, I don't want to talk about this.
Let me talk. I'm deciding. Mijo. Okay, not Mijo. Somebody else.
You good?
So,
You said that's for us?
Yes. Sorry, I thought you were the justices, so I was like.
You're good. I'm making them vote right now, so they're under. Did you guys render a decision in your home?
Sure. We can do that now. Hey, if you think it's Truman's guilty, the prosecution, if you think he's not guilty.
That's the opposite.
Wrong answer.
Yes.
Are you inside or stand up? This is guilty, that's not. Well, which side are you? Wait. I'm in the middle.
We got our decision.
Oh, yeah, this side, I'm on this side.
You're the one that provoked the vote. You have to have a
Yeah, I'm on this side.
Yeah, win.
All rise.
Not that side.
All rise.
In a unanimous decision, the court has found Truman guilty.
Alright, Jill. So just to clarify, did you guys find all three people guilty? Right? Yeah. Okay, alright. So top of your
Truman was the least guilty out of them.
he was the least guilty when he was still
But he's
guilty.
still guilty. How does that
No,
work?
I don't think
Is everybody who engages in war guilty?
I think Hirohito was the least.
No, because people get drafted. People get drafted.
Top of your table, partner. What are your thoughts? What are your reactions to saying all three are guilty? Ready? Goodbye, YouTube.